It was a cold, windy night on March 1st, 1932, when the world of aviation hero Charles Lindbergh, the man who had flown solo across the Atlantic just 5 years earlier, was shattered forever. From his grand estate in Hopewell, New Jersey, came the words that would stop America in its tracks: "The baby's gone." Before we dive into this shocking and tragic case, make sure to subscribe to Crimes Through Time if you're fascinated by true crime and history's darkest mysteries. Give this video a like, it helps others discover forgotten stories like this one. Now, let's step into the shadows of one of the most infamous investigations in American history, where strange letters, coded messages, and public hysteria all collided in a desperate hunt for a missing child. Charles and Anne Morrow Lindbergh were America's golden couple. He was the daring pilot who had conquered the Atlantic. She was the elegant daughter of a US ambassador, well-educated and beloved by society. Together, they represented everything the world admired about modern America: youth, courage, and hope. But that night, all of it came undone. Around 10 o'clock p.m., the Lindbergh's 20-month-old son, Charles Jr., was discovered missing from his nursery on the second floor. A homemade wooden ladder lay broken near the window. On the windowsill was an envelope, handwritten, sealed, and oddly formal. Inside was the first of what would become a series of chilling ransom notes, written in shaky, barely literate English and marked with a strange red and blue circle symbol. It read, "Dear Sir, have $50,000 ready, $25,000 in 20, bills $15,000 in $10, bills and $10,000 in $5 bills. After 2-4 days, we will inform you where to deliver the money. We warn you for making anything public or for notify the police the child is in good care." The handwriting was uneven, full of grammatical errors, almost like someone pretending not to know English well. The odd circular insignia, containing 3 holes and interlocking lines, was drawn on the bottom, an attempt, perhaps, to make the note official. That symbol would appear on every ransom letter that followed. From the beginning, the case became a national obsession. Newspapers screamed headlines like "Lindbergh baby kidnapped" and "Aviator's son held for ransom." Every detail was dissected by the press. Lindbergh himself, America's most famous man, decided to take an active role in the investigation, a decision that would shape the entire case. Police swarmed the Lindbergh estate, searching for clues. They found footprints in the mud and impressions from the ladder, but no fingerprints and no solid leads. The only real evidence was that note written in uneven pencil on cheap paper. Then came more letters. Over the next 2 months, a total of 13 ransom notes would be sent, each one stranger than the last. They were all handwritten in the same shaky scrawl, filled with the same grammatical quirks. "Got care, no police, wait for instructions." The tone grew increasingly frustrated and demanding, and the ransom amount was raised to $70,000. Some letters were mailed from New York. Others were left at secret locations, usually after tips passed through an intermediary named Dr. John Condon, a retired schoolteacher from the Bronx who had inserted himself into the case by publicly offering to act as a go-between. Condon, known as Jafsy from his newspaper pseudonym, became a bizarre central figure. After he offered to help, a letter arrived addressed directly to him. It authorized Condon to negotiate with the kidnappers on behalf of the Lindberghs. "You will receive our letter through the paper," it said. Lindbergh, desperate for his child's safe return, agreed. Soon after, Condon received another note instructing him to meet a man at a Bronx cemetery. On the night of March 12, 1932, he followed the instructions, carrying $50,000 in marked bills. Out of the darkness stepped a man who called himself John. He spoke with a thick foreign accent, possibly German, and refused to reveal his face. They talked briefly through the cemetery fence. Condon asked for proof the baby was alive. The man handed him a sleeping suit belonging to little Charles Jr., as if to prove his claim. In return, Condon promised that Lindbergh would gather the money. The man warned him again: "No police, or the baby dies." The following weeks were chaos. Ransom letters continued, negotiations dragged on, and the world watched in horror. But tragedy struck on May 12, 1932, when the body of the missing child was discovered less than 5 miles from the Lindbergh estate. The boy had been dead for months. The skull was fractured. The news devastated the nation. What had begun as a desperate hope for rescue turned into a murder investigation. And now, the ransom letters, those strange, taunting messages, became the key to catching a killer. The FBI, postal inspectors, and New Jersey State Police pored over every detail of the notes. The handwriting, paper, ink, and even the envelopes were analyzed with 1,930 seconds forensic techniques. The paper was common, the ink untraceable, but the handwriting stood out. It was unique, distinctive, and foreign in style. Experts concluded that all 13 notes were written by the same person. And then came the biggest lead, the ransom money. The bills had been recorded serial numbers logged in meticulous detail. Over the next 2 years, those bills began turning up, one by one, mostly in New York City. Gas stations, corner stores, banks. The ransom money was slowly making its way back into circulation. The break came on September 15, 1934, when a gas station attendant in the Bronx accepted a $10 gold certificate from a nervous-looking customer. Suspicious of the man's behavior, the attendant noted down his license plate number before depositing the bill. When the serial number was checked, it matched one from the Lindbergh ransom list. The car was traced to a German immigrant carpenter named Bruno Richard Hauptmann. Police raided his home, and what they found stunned them. Hidden in his garage loft was a box containing $14,000 in Lindbergh ransom bills. When questioned, Hauptmann claimed the money had been left with him by a friend named Isidor Fish, who had since died. He denied any involvement in the kidnapping or the murder, but handwriting. Experts compared samples of his writing to the ransom letters and declared them a match. The strange spelling, the clumsy grammar, the odd letter shapes, it was all there. To the experts, it was conclusive. To Hauptmann, it was coincidence. His trial, in January 1935, was one of the most sensational in American history. Newspapers called it the trial of the century. Reporters packed the courthouse in Flemington, New Jersey. The public was hungry for justice, and the evidence, at least on the surface, seemed overwhelming. The prosecution displayed the ransom letters side by side with Hauptmann's handwriting samples. They pointed to the matching strokes, the distinctive looping of the letter D, the spacing between words, and the frequent use of phrases like "gut for good" to jurors. It was compelling, but the defense argued that handwriting analysis was far from exact science. They claimed that Hauptmann had been framed, that police planted the money in his home, and that Fish, the deceased associate, had indeed given him the box before leaving for Europe. Still, the tide of public opinion was against him. The image of the humble carpenter contrasted sharply with the glamorous Lindbergh's, but his foreign accent and evasive testimony sealed his fate. On February 13, 1935, Bruno Hauptmann was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. He maintained his innocence to the end, despite appeals, petitions, and growing doubts from journalists and even some police officers. Hauptmann was executed in the electric chair on April 3, 1936. But even as the switch was pulled, questions lingered. Were the ransom letters really his work, or had someone else written them, someone who escaped justice? Over the years, experts have re-examined the letters countless times. Some modern analysts argue that while the handwriting was similar, it was not an exact match. Others point out inconsistencies in the prosecution's handling of evidence, suggesting that the state, under immense pressure, may have forced the puzzle to fit. And then there's the curious issue of the symbol, the red and blue circle mark that appeared on every note. No one ever explained it. Was it a personal insignia, a criminal signature, or a deliberate red herring? Theories abound. Some say the kidnapping was a botched inside job, involving more than one person. Others suggest Hauptmann was indeed guilty, but not the mastermind. Perhaps he was only the courier, the man who delivered and collected letters, while someone else orchestrated the crime. Even Lindbergh himself later expressed doubts. He moved to Europe to escape the constant public scrutiny, haunted by the tragedy and the belief that the full truth might never have been known. Today, the ransom letters remain among the most studied documents in American criminal history. They are stored in the New Jersey State Police Museum, aged paper, faded ink, and the mark of a trembling hand that changed a nation. Each note still whispers the same haunting words. The child is in gut here. And yet, behind those words lies a darkness that has never fully lifted. A crime that blurred the line between desperation and deception, between truth and hysteria. Was Bruno Hauptmann truly the author of those strange, menacing notes? Or were they the work of someone smarter? Someone who vanished into history the moment justice seemed served? In the end, the Lindbergh ransom letters are more than just pieces of evidence. They are echoes of a time when fear ruled America, when handwriting was treated as science, and when the nation learned that even its heroes could suffer the cruelest fate imaginable. Thank you for watching Crimes Through Time. If this story fascinated you, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more journeys into history's darkest mysteries and tell us in the comments, do you believe Bruno Hauptmann wrote the Lindbergh Ransom letters, or was the real kidnapper never caught? We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, stay curious and stay safe.